How's it going, everybody? My name is Infamous Isaac, and I'm here with a video on season two of BoJack Horseman. And it's not that long since I watched season one. It's been a few days. I pre-recorded the BoJack Horseman video before like when it was uploaded, it was not the current day that I finished it. But technicalities, babble, all that stuff. Basically, I'm not just speedrunning it, but I am speedrunning it because I'm so engaged with the show right now. But let me give you guys my opinion on it. Spoiler free then. Give you guys the spoilers. So so far season 2, it started off like I didn't like the first couple episodes, like the first 3, but then it came with a caveat where I didn't like the premise of the first 3 episodes, or at the very least, like they weren't grabbing me, the jokes weren't that funny, stuff like that, and I was getting a little worried. But what was a good sign was that actually, episode 2 was the worst one, bar none. I did not like that one. I didn't like that one at all. Episode 1 was good. It had a good ending. It had a really good ending. Adam almost just spoiled it, but episode 3 as well had a really good ending. And then you get to episode 4, which I really enjoyed. I thought that episode was so cool in terms of concept. Episode 4 was fire. It definitely got me back into the show. And then episode 5 I thought was okay. It was, yeah, it was just alright. Yeah, episode 6, it was alright. It wasn't bad, it just wasn't that great. Episode 7, with this one, oh yeah, episode 7 was funny. Episode 8 was really good, really good. I enjoyed this one. Episode 9 was a good episode. Episode 10 started the 3 episode run. Actually, if anything, episode 9 started that. Episode 9 through 12 were all really good. And episode 11 was the best one in the series so far. And that's only coming from 2 seasons that I watched, but episode 11 was really good, and I can't talk about why it was so good because of the spoiler free section, but just like I was cringing the entire time, but I was so engaged the entire time. So it's like, man, I can't finish this, but I want to finish it. So it's like, ah, man. Season 2, at first it wasn't that great for me, but then it just improved and it got better. I feel like because it wasn't perfect, made it better than season 1. I think I gave season 1 an 8. I would be inclined to also give this one an 8 because again the season started off pretty, but then it got way better. The highs are super high, but the lows were lower than season 1. Where season 1 I was like, oh, this is cool. It shows signs of potential, but it's not that bad either. The jokes were making me laugh. In season 2, the jokes did make me laugh. Like, it's honestly a lot more than season 1. But again, I could notice some of the lows a lot more than in season 1. So, oh goodness, excuse me. So season 2, I feel like actually, nah, I'm gonna give season 2 an 8.5 because in the highs department, it was better than season 1. I gotta admit that. Like as a whole, season 1 was just fun to me, like better in that sense. But season 2, when its highs were high, they were really high. So I gotta give it to that. But let me go into the spoiler section because there's so much I want to talk about. So, spoiler section starting with episode 1. So, episode 1 is just taking place directly after the book stuff going on, and Bojack is filming Secretariat. And it's just like, hey, oh, you gotta film this scene. You're starting to filming for Secretariat, and all that stuff is going on. And it's basically just getting Bojack to say a line. He's getting all campy because he's trying to fix his life, but he's not fixing his life. He's only making it worse. When Secretariat is supposed to be kind of depressed and all that, like, you need the depressed Bojack out more than the happy one right now, because he's impeding his acting. So it's like he gets a call from his mom, and his mom, a really bad person, really bad person. That is not a mother figure that you should have in your life. But I guess then again, I shouldn't judge people's mothers or at all because I'm not a parent, so I can't say that. But it's just like from an outside perspective, like from what I know from her so far, Beatrice Horseman, she's not good. She's not a good person. In terms of the character, she's really good, but She's not a good person at all. From what we've seen from her, which we've seen a lot more from her than we have from a Butterscotch Horseman, it's she's just not a good person at all. But neither of them are. It's just we've seen a lot more from her, and she gives him a call, and it's like, oh shoot, Bojack, I'm sorry, you're a horseman. You're always gonna be like this. You're never gonna be better. You're always gonna be a horseman, and that's all. Like that's all you can be. So just accept it. You're never gonna change, no matter how much you try. And it fixes him. It fixes him. So that ending was really really good to me. I gotta give it to episode one for having that amazing ending. Episode two, I didn't like it, not at all. It was Disneyland. Todd was making a Disneyland for 5 years. He made it. It was burning down. Bojack meets Wanda, which is an important character for this season. Which honestly, I like her inclusion. I don't like her personality as much. Not like in terms of like, oh, I think it's bad. It's not for me, honestly. I don't really like her personality compared to the other characters, but she's definitely a good addition to the show. I can't even lie about that. But this episode, I didn't like it. The only parts I liked were Wanda and Bojack's relationship, and the KGB agent. Like just the concept of a KGB agent in America 30 years later. Like that's hilarious to me. But episode three was it got better. It was just basically like Herb's funeral happened. He passed away, not to the cancer because it went into remission, but because he what's it called? He got into a car accident, and his brakes just stopped working, which I think was planned. I don't remember, but Sarah Lynn and the other three actors of what's it called? Horsing Around, including Bojack, got together and they went to go find Herb's last remaining like treasure hunting that he left behind, and it was a manuscript. So they get it and they find out, oh shoot, it went missing. Somebody took it before we did, and it turns out it was one of the people at the funeral party, and they think that he was the one that killed Herb, but in reality, no, he just stole the manuscript. And the reason he stole it is because this manuscript is so bad, so unbelievably like garbage that he had to burn it down himself. And so while the party's going on, Princess Carolyn is at the party making up lies about how much she knew Herb, trying to get talent pool over to her agency, and it's working. But it comes the A and B plot connect together, all that stuff, and they burned the manuscript, and it's just like BoJack this whole time was just trying to find a way to make peace with the fact that Herb will never forgave him for what happened. And he never would have even if he was still alive. It was just too much because Herb didn't have a friend. Bojack was supposed to be that friend, but he wasn't. And so that's just something that he has to live with. He's trying to find closure, but like Herb said, he doesn't deserve closure. It's just like, man, that's rough. That's really rough. Episode four, my would have been my favorite episode if it wasn't for Escape from LA, but that's a different story. After party is basically Diane's birthday is happening, and she gets home with Mr. Peanut Butter. They had a great day. They had a great time, and Mr. Peanut Butter's like, oh, so what was it called? You know what? Anything else, right? Nothing else can make this day any better. She's like, nope, nothing at all. So they enter the house. It's a whole party, and she just has this crazy like 2 hour angry rant in the middle of the party, and everybody afterwards just leaves. And what makes this episode so good is how it's handled, where you have four perspectives, or excuse me, yeah, four perspectives, where we see Princess Carolyn and Todd go home, and Todd is with her because Bojack and Wanda leave without him, and so Todd is at her house, and she's just talking about Vincent Adult Man and how they're so distant, and he doesn't open up, and he shows up because she saw him while they were driving home, like someone that looked like him, and in reality it was just Kevin, which is his real name. So he shows up to her house and he's like trying to play it off and all that, but they break up. In a sense, they break up because Princess Carolyn can't take it anymore. She thought that he was the right guy. He wasn't, which is crazy, right? Because it's just three children stacked up together, or excuse me, it's not three children stacked up together because there wasn't any other children in the suit. It was just Kevin. So how did he get that? I don't even know. But so far in that season, that or this season, that was the last time we saw Vincent Adult Man. So but they're just moving on from him. Moving on to Mr. Rabbitwitz, I think is what his name is, the rabbit guy in the agency. So we see that. We see, excuse me, Wanda and what's his dude's name? Bojack. They're just talking all that stuff, having a conversation. They run over a deer and they take him to the hospital. All that stuff, blah 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 blah. Then you have Diane and Mr. Peanut Butter's one, which was arguably the best one besides like Miss Princess Carolyn. But it was just really nice because it was a natural argument between somebody who's happy all the time and who has underlying like weight underneath that happiness, but he doesn't show it, especially because you have the counterweight, which is Diane, who seems composed, but in reality, she's not. She has a lot of problems that Bojack has. She's selfish. She's really selfish. She only really cares about herself and how her life is going, but she forgets she's married to Mr. Peanut Butter, no less. A guy who deals with a lot of stress, a guy who cares for her a lot. And so they're just talking about that, and Mr. Peanut Butter's just like, come on, bro, like, be fair a little. But then it's both sides have problems, right? Mr. Peanut Butter threw this party knowing that she wouldn't like it, but at the same time, Mr. Peanut Butter put in the effort in the party. So it's like doing the act versus how well he did the act is rough to justify. It's but they figure it out. They mix it well. Diane wants to change as a person. Mr. Peanut Butter has changed as a person, so he's fine. But it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress. Mr. Peanut Butter is gonna be her anchor for as far as I can see until they if they get divorced, which I don't know if they will. But episode 5, just chickens. Eh, eh, I didn't like this episode that much. Honestly, it was yeah, it was one of the worst ones in the season, besides episode 2. I didn't like it. I thought it was just like, oh, they're going to a chicken farm. Todd finds a chicken. He falls in love with her basically because he, it, she's better than Bojack, I guess, which she is because she's not as demeaning or abusive, like in terms verbally abusive, but whatever. And I don't like it. I just don't like it. Episode 6, it was it was okay. Again, like 2, 5, and 6 weren't that good. 6 being the least offensive in terms of how bad it was. 2 for sure was my least favorite. Then 5 in second place. Then 6 in third. It was just okay. I didn't want to talk about it honestly. Episode 7 was good. It was good because it did take a spin on feminism, I guess. Well, yeah, I guess it would be feminism and women's or not well actually no not women but more like just people speaking out in general about experiences that they had most so over in the internet and just allegations against people who on the outside have a very like kind disposition but in the underbelly because of that kind disposition they don't show that negative side, the one that takes advantage of their coworkers or that abuses people in the workplace and just overall a real nasty person. And what I mean like with the speaking out culture is just because they're so popular, it's hard for people to speak out and have their story heard, especially in the age of of information where people have such a hard time believing what they see, but also they believe anything if it's from a person who has enough status. It just some people, like a general populace, not everybody, right? Of course, like it wouldn't be everybody who does it, but it is a good amount of people. And it's rough, it's a very important discussion that has been around for a long time. It's just isn't talked about a lot until the situation happens because it happens a lot on the internet, whether it's on YouTube or Instagram or Twitch or anything like that internet zeitgeist that exists has that there, especially when it comes to drama because YouTubers are a good example of people that can power trip and abuse their power, abuse their fans because they have the ability to. And that's just something like that happens because the person in power isn't isn't a good person no matter how they portray themselves in the media or just in their videos. And it sucks because I watch a lot of YouTubers that I grew up with but I'll never know them. I will genuinely, under God's green earth, unless if I befriend all these people in my lifetime, which is highly impossible, or excuse me, highly improbable. Won't say impossible because who knows? Maybe one day I'll be having a beer with Markiplier or something. Or well, actually, that's not a good one because I don't think he can drink. But like, or with Chugga Khan or with Nico B or like Circle Tunes HD or something. Like one day that could happen. But I'm not saying like as definitive. But I'm just saying like one day maybe I don't know. Who knows? But it's just I will never know the people that I like to watch. Like putting that rant aside, I don't know them. You guys don't know me. For the people that watch me as well, you don't know what happens when I take off my headset, turn off my console, and upload the video. Well, whatever happens afterwards, I unless if I share it and give you guys a glimpse of what happens, you will never know what what goes on in my life and what I do as a person, my moral compass, what decisions I've made and will continue to make in varying degrees in my life. That's just something that is hard to convey unless if you know the person in real life, if you know them past a certain level. And it's honestly now thinking about it, like that. Just speaking about the episode and its topic is really good. Like the concept itself is really good. The episode itself is all right. Hank, something I forgot his name. He's a hippopotamus, but that episode was good in terms of what it was doing. It was bringing that like glance at that subject, but also bringing it towards Diane as a character because the more we see Diane in this season, the more we see she's a lot like Bojack, which is actually what my friend brought up when I was talking to him a couple days ago, or actually not even a couple days ago. This was yesterday, but he was talking about how BoJack and Diane are really similar, and I'll come to see that the more I see her at her lowest. And yeah, this season shows her at her lowest for sure. So seeing these traits, they're a lot like BoJack. When she gets depressed, she just goes on a drunken stupor, and it's like, oh shoot, this is crazy. But it's also she's making this about herself and just other people trying to be a good guy, but in reality this is just self-serving justice, like speaking out about the people who are not getting the attention that they need in terms of their stories, and the people who are in power taking advantage of that and suppressing those stories. That's a good deed. Diane, though, isn't the one that should be doing it. People who have the ability to speak out and take advantage and take a well, not advantage, but more like take hold of those stories and spread them to the cultural zeitgeist should be doing it. Diane is just a writer, like, and it's good that she wants to spread them, but how much of it is her really wanting to spread the story versus her just wanting to feel like she's doing something good with her life. And like that's the question I'm trying to bring up. And while I don't want to make her feel bad for trying to do that, it's also like you gotta realize who you are as a person and why you're doing certain things. If Diane was a more holistic character where she knew what she was doing in life and she wasn't questioning if she was doing the important things in her life, but in reality she's just not that type of person, then yeah, of course, this wouldn't be in question. Her actions themselves. And I'm not try to shame a character. She's a fictional character, but it's also like I'm not trying to shame people like that as well because I'm not doing that. I'm not spreading stories of people who get like have stories like that are just really horrible to hear from people that are powerful and that are quote unquote either beloved or just popular enough to be acknowledged. I don't want to bring down that like action. That's not what I'm trying to say. I just want to be clear. I'm just saying more in terms of Diane's action that this is questionable. But in terms of the action itself, yeah, man, like helping people who have stories that are genuine, that aren't falsified for attention, for sure, which is another muddy area because the internet's the internet. It's so hard to prove facts until it's too late because people will believe the first thing that they see. So it's rough. But if it's true and if multiple people speak out on it as well, and it's just like shoot, man, you gotta push that forward. You gotta know, like, I don't like tearing people down, but at the same time, if you're a monster, then what can you do except just take away the mask and show what you really are? It's a crazy concept. Like it's generally a crazy concept. Like, but episode 7 has gone up in my ranking now for sure. That was a good one. So I'll include 7 and 8 in the crazy run that this season went on after episode 6 and all that stuff. So episode 7, really good episode. Episode 8, really good episode. It was between Mr. Peanut Butter and Bojack, where he, goodness, I just realized how long of a rant I went on that last topic. It was crazy. I I hope I elaborated myself well enough to be understood. If you guys have questions about it in the comments, I'll try my best to explain what I mean, because I'm doing a one take Drake. I'm just going. I don't usually edit these videos because I want my thoughts to be unfiltered, but also I don't want the wrong idea to get like across. So if anything like is in question what you guys are wondering about, then just let me know in the comments. I'll try to answer it as best as possible. But yeah, episode 8, it was between Mr. Bojack, or excuse me, Mr. Peanut Butter and Bojack, because Mr. Peanut Butter has a show, and they're just there, and it's a trivia show. Basically, like imagine Steve Harvey with Family Feud and all that stuff, and Bojack is going up against Daniel Radcliffe from Harry Potter, where they're answering trivia questions, and Daniel's supposed to win, but Bojack actually he's winning because but Princess Caroline gave him a telltale of what the answer is due to Mr. Peanut Butter's ears, and so he caught up, and the final answer was like, oh, Bojack, if you get this question right, you get to donate $1 million to charity. And Daniel Radcliffe, he when he was in the hallway with Bojack talking, he was like, "Oh, who are you?" And Bojack was like, "Oh, we met at this one party and we talked a lot and all that stuff." And Daniel forgot about him because of his success, because he meets so many people. But in reality, he just forgot about him because he didn't care. And Bojack took that personally. So when the question was like, "Oh, who's the who's the actor from the titular movie series Harry Potter and whatever it's called?" And it's obvious, it's Daniel Radcliffe himself. So it's an easy question to answer. And Bojack said Elijah Wood from Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, I forgot which one. But he it's toxic. It's toxic because the way that the episode ends, they throw the money into the pit of fire. Because if he got it wrong, that's what they were gonna do, and he got it wrong. So they just threw it in the fire and ended the episode right there, which was pretty funny. I'm not even gonna lie. Like episode 8 was really funny. Episode 9 was a good episode. It was about Bojack and Kelsey, which is the director for Secretariat, filming a shot that the turtle guy did not want to film, and they filmed it, but when they showed it to the turtle guy, Kelsey got fired, so she's no longer working on the thing. And they went through this whole thing of filming this one shot that was really important to Bojack. It was the whole crux of Secretariat, one of the cruxes of it, and it's just it sucks. It's a business. It's genuinely a business. So the Secretariat filming just it had a character death, which I didn't mention. It got a character like their face got burned off. Excuse me, and Kelsey got fired. And Bojack, I'll explain later, had something going on with it. But yes, episode 9 was good, but man, like it showed some repercussions with the actions that happened in there. Episode 10 is just basically Todd gets into an improv group. Bojack and Wanda break up. Diane comes back from Cordovia, which she did go, but she's coming back because she hated it there. What's his face? Sebastian Sinclair, I think is his name, just wasn't telling the stories. He's very self centered, just doing this for his image, which is easy to tell. But Bojack basically realizes this when Diane like crashes that he needs to get away from LA. Like he just needs a detox from LA and just needs a break from it all. And he leaves, which leads us to episode 11, the best episode so far, Escape from LA. This episode I could talk about all by itself in a separate video, but this episode is basically Bojack goes over to New Mexico, or Tusky. I forgot what it's called, but he goes there and he goes to see Charlotte, the girl who was dating Herb back before Bojack blew up, and he was just a striving comedian turning actor. And he goes there and he saw her actually at the funeral, so that's how they connected back. And my friend told me this is one of the highest rated like episodes in the entire series. Like it's really good, but just it changes the show forever. So going into this, like, oh shoot, man, like what's gonna happen? And 5 minutes into the episode, I realized I know what's gonna happen. I remember what's gonna happen. And I don't know why I remembered. I think either he showed me like a couple years ago or I saw it online, but I remember something bad is gonna happen. Something really, really bad is going to happen in this scene or in this show or this episode, excuse me. And I remembered what it was, at least the general idea of it. So Bojack goes there. He meets with Charlotte. She has a family now. She has two children, a husband, all that stuff, a house, and she's just living good. She's living really good. And Bojack is there, and he's just like he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know what he's gonna do to go forward. But he goes there, and the Charlotte's daughter, I forgot her name, Penny, I think is her name, Penny. She starts liking Bojack because he's helping her out a lot. She's telling him about all her drama, and Bojack ends up staying there for 2 months. And now he thinks that he's a part of the family, but in reality, it's more like he's overstaying his welcome. But they like him, like they all like him, so it's not like they mind. But Bojack, he has his duties to attend to back in LA. There's the like he can't stay there, especially since she's married already with children. That's not the life for him. He needs to leave. So Penny is having her prom, and this guy didn't invite her. So Bojack is like, oh, why don't I go instead? We can go there. We could do all this crazy plan, like to show Diego that you don't need him. And at first, Charlotte's like, but then she's like, oh, whatever, fine. If Penny wants this, then go ahead. Bad sign, by the way, really bad sign. So they go, they have a good time with Penny and some of her friends, and one of Penny's friends actually gets a drink from Bojack, but later on in the episode she gets alcohol poisoning, so on the verge of dying actually, and they have to take her back to or not back but to a hospital, and Bojack being very responsible, he's like, all right, so I forgot this dude's name, but the kid with the girl who's like ODing basically. Well, not ODing, that's a different term. Who's dying. Bojack is like, oh shoot, man, just like if you find out if they ask any questions, just tell them Bojack and Penny left early from the prom. I did not give her the alcohol. Do not tell them that. As far as you're concerned, we left way earlier than we did. Okay? It's just basically covering his butt so he doesn't get in trouble because if this ever got out that he gave alcohol to minors and almost killed one of them if she doesn't live, his career is over. Nobody can help him. He's done. So he covers his tracks and he leaves. Penny questioning like, is she gonna be all right? And Bojack is just like, we just hope that she's gonna be all right. Bojack and Penny get back to Charlotte's house and they're at the door. Penny and confesses that she started getting feelings for Bojack. But context, right? Penny is 17 years old. Bojack is 50, going to 51. There's no sense of the word, like, besides pedophilia, or not pedophilia, but more like underage. This is not okay. She said it like, oh yeah, it's consensual. I'm not drunk. I'm in my faculties are working, but it's underage sex. That is not okay. No matter who the main character is, who the other character is, no matter the scenario, Bojack Horseman, if he went through with that then and there, would have been the bad guy. He was not drunk. She was not drunk. He was 50, or excuse me, he is 50. He is a consenting adult. She is not. She is 17. No matter how close she is to turning 18, she is a child, a teenager, but still a child. There is no like, okay, like the laws in New Mexico are like, oh yeah, you can legal age of consent at 17, but that is statutory rape, dog. That is statutory, like, excuse me, let me not throw that word out there. I don't want to say statutory rape and actually not be that, but that is not okay. That is genuinely not okay. That is underage sex. That is not okay. So he declines it, being the respectable man that he is, quote unquote respectable, and he goes to the back and he sees Charlotte there, and they start talking, and Charlotte starts realizing like Bojack isn't here to have a visit. He's here to run away with me, because he kissed her in the moonlight, and she realizes this, and she's like, "Please, you gotta leave, man. Like, I don't think you should stay here anymore. I have a family. I have kids. You being here is just gonna tear me away from them. And I don't even think you're good for me either." And Bojack is just desperately grasping at straws, like, "Please, just just run away with me," and stuff like that. But Charlotte's just sick of it. Like, "No, you can't. We can't. You knew me for a short amount of time of my life. I moved on, Bojack. You didn't." And it's just rough because Bojack's grasping at a time of his life when he was happy. It's been 30 years, but he's still grasping at that time, and he can't move on. And because of that, it leads us to one of the worst scenes in the show, but it's the reason why it's one of the best episodes in the series. Charlotte goes out front. She goes to the boat that Bojack ordered as a reason to stay here in New Mexico, and she finds Bojack and Penny about to have sex. Because Penny came back out from going inside after telling her Bojack telling her no, and she said it once again. "I'm ready. I'm ready. Like, I want this." And Bojack, being defeated, he's going for it. Charlotte, being a good person, tells him like, "Leave. If you don't leave in 30 minutes, I will kick you out, and I will call the police. Like, do not stay here. Leave. Never come back here." So he leaves. He leaves and he goes back to LA. In this episode, that's where it ends. It's just him going back to LA and then finding Diane there. It's a messy episode. It's a really messy episode. And what makes it so good is that it feels so human. For a show with anthropomorphic animals where it's a deer and a horse talking to each other, it's so human. It's genuinely so real. I've never seen such a scene that felt so genuine, so vulnerable, so real. That's the only way I can describe it. The whole time I was just cringing because I realized like, yeah, that Penny and Bojack, that thing's gonna happen. I remember why, and it's just so icky. It's so icky seeing it happen. Like, I don't like it. I don't like it whatsoever. But they did such a good job making me feel uncomfortable without breaching that border of like, okay, this is too much. This is way too much for, especially for an adult animation like TV show on Netflix. They didn't keep it. They kept it just right there next to the line. They didn't go over the line. They were like literally hovering over it, type stuff. Such a good episode. Oh my goodness, it was so hard to watch. So like I can't specify this enough, ladies and gentlemen, and non-binary pals. This episode was so hard to watch, but I was engaged every second. I I don't know how to feel about BoJack, but it just goes to show that he's a flawed, very very flawed character who, if anything, might not even be redeemable anymore because of that action. Like, even though Penny was the one insisting, BoJack was the consenting adult. Penny is a child. She is an underage teen. There's no like not no law can defend you there. No moral law either can defend you there. It's rough, man. It's really rough. So we move on to episode 12, which takes on a very lighthearted note where Todd's still with the improv group, and Bojack just realizing like, oh, they finished Secretariat without me because way back in like the first or second episode, they had Bojack take face scans so they could finish the movie with technology and AI machine type stuff. So they finished it while he was gone for 2 months, and he realizes that nobody really cares for him except for Todd. So he's gonna go back and find Todd and get him out from the improv group. Which, by the way, if it wasn't for Todd actually getting kidnapped and being forced to stay, or brainwashed, excuse me, and being forced to stay on the ship, Bojack's action would have been really selfish, or really selfish. But it turned selfless because Todd did not want to be there. But it would have been selfish because of the fact that he was going there just for Todd. Like, he wanted him back. But what would have happened if Todd said no? Because Todd said no before. Todd worked with Mr. Peanut Butter. Todd was all for Mr. Peanut Butter and Diane's marriage. Todd is usually against Bojack schemes to ruin other people's lives to make his better. So what would have happened if he said no? Where would have Bojack been if Todd wasn't in that situation? I don't know. I genuinely do not know. But luckily, it did work out for him. And one of the few things in his life that he genuinely like starts to appreciate is back with him now, and that is Todd Chavez. So luckily, that episode had a happy ending. But man, what a season! What a season! Best season so far. There's only two, but best season so far. Just improves on the first one in a lot of ways. Having a lot of pitfalls with some of the episodes, like episode 1, 5, and 6. I don't like them at all, but goodness. Episode 4, 7, and everything else. Oh my goodness, they're so good. They're just so good. I can't specify that enough. Like, I can't wait for season 3. I'm so engaged with this show right now. I can't stop watching it. And that's so crazy because this I was so hesitant about watching the show, but also just like, I don't watch adult animation because it's usually to me the same of like, oh yeah, gags, cutaways, stuff like that. And now that the show's found its footing of like A and B story, not that many cutaways, stuff like that. It's not playing into that adult animation trope that is like, hey, you turn on Fox, you see The Simpsons, cutaways, jokes, celebrity showing up, stuff like that. Well, BoJack Horseman does have celebrities just showing up. I don't even know if it's the real celebrities there, but they are there. But I feel like they're just not there just to be there. They're there for a reason because it is LA. But I don't know. I like something about this show feels special. Like it's just generally a man who's broken because of how bad of a person he really is, trying to live his life in LA with people who also have their problems. They're not. Nobody in this show is perfect. Not a single person in this show is perfect. Charlotte, even though she seems like she's doing great, is not perfect either. She has her flaws as a character as well. She she let on BoJack when she was young. Her flaws as a young character were really apparent. And now when he comes back, which is BoJack's fault, she's all grown up and she's an adult. She's 50. She's 50. So it's just like, shoot, man. None of these characters are perfect, and that's what feels so good about this show. It feels so human. It feels genuinely like these characters exist. And I'm so invested in their lives when in reality it's just dogs, or excuse me, anthropomorphic animals and people. Like Diane is married to a dog. Bojack and Wanda are a horse and an owl. Princess Caroline is a cat, and she was getting giggity with a rabbit. Like this stuff is crazy, but it just feels so normal because all these people are people. That's all they are, and it's just crazy to think about. Like that's all. That's all that's been going on. But yeah, this videos are going on for a while, like a long time. I did not expect to go into two rants with episode 7 and episode 11. Which again, if I need to clarify anything in the comments, just let me know. I don't want to make it seem like I said things that give off an impression of what I am or who I am or how I feel about things. I just want to explain it. I really don't want this to come back me in the bag as well. But I just do want to give my opinions on it because I don't like talking about politics and stuff like that because there's more than just issues at hand. These are people's lives that are affected by these issues as well. And a lot of the time I'm not affected by it because I'm lucky, to be honest. Like I'm lucky to not be affected by that. So it's just rough situations that I don't want to speak about because I don't have enough information, experience, or just knowledge, period, to be able to speak definitively on what my opinion would be on this. I can only speak on it generally from what the show is telling me and from what I see. So, again, just any clarification I'll try to do in the comments below. But don't take my word as gospel because I am not smart. Not at all. But yeah, just wanted to say that. Just wanted to be clear on that. Thank y'all for watching though. Hope y'all enjoyed. I know this is a long one, but I really enjoyed the season. So more to come. Hopefully they're not as long as this one, but if we get episodes like Escape from LA all the time, then shoot, man. They're probably gonna be like 50 minutes each. But my voice is sore. I'm gonna end it here. Hope you all enjoy. I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.